Hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. And a card for the Waffle Flower February 2024 release. They have a whole bunch of cute products being released this month. I will have a link to the release in the description box below the video. I don't have all of it, so I'm not doing like a release and review or anything like that. There is also a new postage collage stencil set that they had released. I don't have that, otherwise I would have done a video on it. I've done other videos. You guys know I love me the postage collage, collection that Waffle Flower's been doing now for, I think it's over a year now. I forget how long. So many cute things, but again, link to that's below. Anyway, I combined a couple of the newer products along with a couple of oldie but goodie products. Sort of clean and simple, but also I use like texture paste and some splatter, did a bit of ink blending, and yeah, had fun. So, like I said, things will be linked in the description box below, along with like exactly what I used, etc. And then if you keep watching, I will show you guys how I made this card. I started by creating my background, and for that, I used just a piece of A2 sized smooth white cardstock and the tiny heart stencil from Waffle Flower. This isn't new. This has been around for ages. So I put the stencil over the background, have it all stuck on my little grip mat so that nothing moves around. And then I'm using the Picket Studios Arctic Fox paper glaze paste. And I took my time with this. Usually I just kind of slap the paste on. Don't worry about it. But because this stencil, it's very small, delicate, and it's heart-shaped. So I just made sure to apply the paste pretty evenly so that you can actually tell they're little hearts and not just, random little blobs. But again, you just do whatever works, So I applied that, and then as soon as I was done, scraped off the excess, I've got press and seal on that jar to keep the paste from drying out. And then I immediately stuck my stencil and my palette knife into just some warm soapy water. I'd gotten better at getting into a habit of having a container to stick my stencils in. Either that or I take them directly to the sink, whatever works, but clean them off immediately because once it dries on your stencil, anyway. Next step was I die cut more of the same cardstocks, the smooth white cardstock, and I used the new lovely Clover die set. It's so cute. So I die cut the pieces from just that white cardstock, and then I stuck it again onto my grip mat just to kind of help hold things in place, and then did very simple ink blending. I'm using just for all the green parts, aka all the little Clover pieces, I used 2 different shades of Concord 9th ink, and I'm using Parsley, and then I'm going to add a bit of Oceanside just to give it a little hints of kind of that like aqua blue sort of color. And for the ink, applying the ink, I'm using the shader 1+ brushes. So that's the slightly larger, round brushes. I love these brushes. I use them a lot. And then I have different brushes for different colors. Just like I always say, I don't clean my brushes ever. With ones like this, though, that are so small, these are the only brushes that I do not have separate ones for dye inks and then oxides, etc. Because these ones are so small, I can swirl them really easily onto just a cloth if I was to use it with a different type of ink. All my other brushes, I keep separate ones. But these guys, I just don't bother because they're small enough that it's pretty easy and quick to just swirl them on a microfiber cloth. So I used the 1+ brush, and then to add sort of this bit of shading and detail, this is the 2+, and it's just a little tiny sort of narrow, very thin brush. And it shows up darker right now as I'm applying while the ink is wet. This is going to dry back quite a bit. These inks do soften and dry back a lot. So with things like this, if you want more definition or a deeper contrast, either use a much deeper color of ink. I just use the exact same green ink. This is the Parsley ink. Or let it dry and then go back in again, and you could build up the layers. But I was happy with this. It dried back and softened, and it was fine. So I added those little kind of darker areas Again, just kind of simulate like, folds and grooves and whatnot. And then for the, I assume, is this like just part of Clover? To me makes, I don't know why, my brain immediately was thinking like thistle. But at the same time, you kind of do what you want. I've talked about this before. I don't worry too much about like realism. It's card making. Whatever whatever it is, whatever you're making, whether it's birds or florals or whatever, do whatever works for you. So I went with pinks because I just thought those would be pretty. So I used Sweet Pea, and then I'll add in Dragonfruit, which is a very intense pink, and went from the base of these to the top. So, and same with the greenery, so it kind of gives you the variations without using like a ton of different inks. So after I had everything blended together, I also pulled out another oldie but goodie set. This is the VASE variety die set. There's multiple different types. So I just used one of them and I die cut it from a scrap of white cardstock. And I used that same OCEANSIDE ink. And I did the same thing. I just kind of blended from the bottom. So it starts, so it'll be darker and then kind of fades almost to white towards the top. So it just gives it that extra bit of definition. So went along and just kept blending that until I was happy with it. And kind of intensified it a bit just to give it, and the dye itself does all that debossing, so adding the ink blending also kind of picks up on that detail. So by this point, my background, the paste is completely dry, so I trimmed that down just using my guillotine trimmer. So I trimmed it down to roughly like 4 inches by 5 1/4, just slightly smaller than an A2 card base. And then I assembled my lovely Clover clusters here, which were just the 2 like florally little parts. And then I adhered these to the back of this vase. So they're all coming out from that, and kind of figured out where I wanted everything first. Decided to keep one of the pieces for the inside of the card. And I wanted to get this assembled and then adhered to the background because, of course, splatter. Just must. So got those adhered, just used craft tacky glue for that, adhered this to the background. I had let the glue dry, and then I stuck this into my splat box and wanted to add some gold splatter. So this time I'm using the Picket Fence liquid gold watercolor paper splatter. So I shook that up really well, put it on my palette, used my little fan brush, and then just added some splatter to this entire background and kept it a little lighter than, I went a little softer than, normal. So again, this is me kind of aiming for clean and simple while still adding a bunch of things. So then I pulled out the new You and Me stamp set, and I had a piece of Concord 9 cardstock. This is the Sweet Pea cardstock. I used my anti-static powder tool on it. And then I stamped a couple of the sentiments from that set with clear embossing ink. And then I'm going to coat those with detailed gold embossing powder, tap off the excess, melt that with my heat tool. And I made sure to stamp them like kind of straight along the bottom edge of this piece of cardstock, because after I melted it with my heat tool, I can then use my paper trimmer and just trim these out without having to bother with like wafer dies. A lot of times, with sentiments, I will just stamp them and die cut them, with a sentiment label die, that sort of a thing. But this set, the way the fonts were and the way the stamps themselves were, because they're all like shaped as rectangles, if that makes sense, it was really easy to just line those up and stamp them and then trim them out with my paper trimmer. And then to like make this sentiment, there is the You word in the set, but I wanted it separate. So I used the You and Me wafer die set and just die cut the You word. There's also an outline for this that will work with this or with the sentiment on the stamp set, but I just wanted the word. So I die cut a scrap of some gold cardstock and some white cardstock, stack those together, give it dimension. And then my card base is going to be a top folding A2 white note card. And I put it into my MISTI so I could build another phrase with that You and Me stamp set. So I got it all laid out, all of the stamps the way I wanted, got it all built on here. And then I removed just one of the words, the word lucky, because I wanted to stamp that in a different color. So got everything lined up. And then I stamped the sentiments with that same Sweet Pea ink, removed all those from the lid, and then rearrange, like replace that lucky word into the phrase, and then ink that up with that parsley ink. And then I'm going to adhere that little Clover die cut that I'd saved right into the little sentiment there, just to kind of tie it all together. So once I got everything done on the inside of the card, to adhere the card front, I'm going to use some of Simon's Big Mama foam tape. So it'll give it just a little bit of lift, you know, not a ton of bulk. So got that on the back of the panel. And then I'm going to adhere that into place onto my card front. And then the die cut word U, I'm going to adhere again just with craft tacky glue, since that one's already it's already got the built-in dimension with the layers of cardstock. And then the little heat emboss sentiments, I decided to pop up with the Big Mama foam tape as well, just to, again, give them that little bit of lift. And yeah, that was the reason. So trim those down. They were just the foam tape was just slightly too wide. So I just used my scissors to trim it down just a teeny bit so I could get those stuck into place. So got those onto the back of these sentiments, and then stuck those to the card front. And then my final embellishment, and it was actually what inspired the colors for this card, are these little candy dots. Waffle Flower released several different little colors of enamel dots. I'm kind of liking that these are making a comeback. You know, these used to be our only form of embellishment, and then everything else has come out over the years, and now we're kind of cycling back to enamel dots again. And I don't know why. I really like them. I really like them, and these are pretty. They look like they're glowing. So I just use my die pick. They're self-adhesive, so I just use that to kind of peel them off and then place them onto my card. And just like the splatter and everything else, I was like, more is more. Why not? And then I finally had to stop myself. Like right here, I was like, should I have more? No, stop it. Stop it. We're good. So that was the completed card. Like I mentioned in the intro, I will have links to all the things in the description box below the video. So if you just expand that, it's all going to be there. I'll link to my blog post. For those watching this, the day it's released or the day after, if you check out my Instagram account, I will have this card posted on there with a little giveaway, so you can check that out. And yeah, thank you guys so very much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping and commenting. I very much appreciate it. It very much helps. Subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.